even where we are now. So this, what British people would call roundabout, is a memorial for a rabbi who was killed here in the late 90s. In 2001, maybe some of you will remember, a sniper from Abu Snina neighborhood right here murdered a 10-month-old baby in the Israeli settlement here of Avraham Avinu. Her name was Chevron. Her parents still live here. It's very much part, there were cases in where, tens of people died in suicide attacks, but the idea of a sniper shooting at a baby was, I think, as gruesome as you get. Most Israelis remember that from the Second Intifada. In 2003, where all those leaves are on that store, that's a memorial for a couple that was killed. Gary, Dina, and Levi were killed here in the beginning of 2003 by a suicide attacker who was dressed up as an ultra-Orthodox Jew. So that's just in the area that we are in a 2-year period. And I'm not talking about the tens of cases where people were caught in advance or when people were caught on their way or that kind of thing. That's very much part, death is very much a part of the day-to-day here. And all the people that you're seeing, even though it's very quiet and like dead in another way, it's very much part of the memory, and definitely the kids here as well. So that's a bit about this area. We're very much in the old city. This is the wholesale market, which I'll talk about soon. If you remember, in 2007 there was an evacuation of the Palestinian wholesale market, but 2 settler families were living there, and it was evacuated. It took 2,000 soldiers to evacuate. So that was here, and this is the largest settlement that you see, the Avraham Avinu settlement, where the Israeli flag is. All that nice white Jerusalem stone. That's the settlement of Avraham Avinu. A couple things about that settlement. Inside the settlement is a synagogue, which when it was under Jordanian rule was desecrated and was a place for livestock, and a lot of times the rhetoric of the settlers justly, the first thing they did when they came here was to clean up the synagogue and make it into a functioning synagogue. Down the road though, here, if we would go here in a group under 9, if we would go here, you would see that there is what used to be a mosque. And it's, as ironies have it in this area, it's been converted to like the place for livestock for the settlers. So that full circle is something that happens here a lot. It's an interesting phenomenon. You see the word that you see graffitied most on the wall here is nikama, which means revenge, and it's not something that people are hiding. It's something which is very open. The 1929 massacre was a massacre which wasn't discussed in Israel in the 40s and 50s, just like a lot of things in the Holocaust weren't discussed. And the rhetoric which was used to discuss in 1929 was sometimes a lambs to the slaughterhouse rhetoric, which we know from early Zionist rhetoric towards Holocaust victims. The idea of a weak community which didn't fight back. So it was an embarrassment, and people didn't want to talk about it. And the settlers actually revived the whole 1929 story. So their relationship, they have a dual relationship with the 1929 community. On one hand, they have to use the terminology of we are the children of this 1929 community, because that's the justification for being here. On the other hand, it's a community which they're very much opposed because it's a community which wasn't vengeful, which was attacked and didn't attack back. So all the property that the settlers said, at least the initial parts, are always areas which did belong to Jews before 1929, and sometimes on paper they still belong to those same 1929 Jews today. That rhetoric is obviously problematic from a couple of reasons. First of all, if we look at who owned property in 1929, and by that discuss how the state of Israel will be built, it's very problematic in terms of like the rest of the country. But that's still part of it. And I think I always, it's always important for me to say that when people like smile at the 1929 rhetoric, they're not really the children of this 1929 community. That's pretty much the rest of our rhetoric of the rest of the country. I mean, we are returning to land 2,000 years after. I mean, it's farther removed from the settler rhetoric in that sense. And that's also something to keep in mind. I'll start talking about the wholesale market, even though Yehuda told me he's going to talk about it on the other side of the street.